I met Dad in, it was like Christmas Eve. So I was 16 and a half.
19. New Christmas Eve.
At a pub called The Mill at Mosborough.
I met her at Mill. 81.
1980. It was always one of them kind of pubs where they used to have like a bit of an hour where they played a lot of like heavy rock, really. They used to play all like chart stuff, and then probably from about 9 to past, they used to have a bit of because a lot of bikers used to go in there, and they used to have this. And I always remember they always used to play Meatloaf, that one that goes on for about 11 minutes or something. And they played that, and everybody used to go in this bit where they were like a dance floor, and they used to all start like head banging and things, and we used to be all like, oh God, look at them, and they all had right long hair, and leather jackets on, and denim jackets on, and things, and they were all, and loads of eyeliner on. All girls looked a bit scary. You didn't really look at them. But like most of the time, it were like chart stuff, which probably would have been Heaven 17, and that Dare LP had just come out, so they played things from that, and probably a bit of Shalimar. Yeah, they did play a lot of Shalimar, because I can remember saying to him, I like these. And he went, Shalimar? And I said, yeah. And he went, I said, what music are you into? And he said he were into jam and what have you. And I said, oh, they're a bit aggressive, them, aren't they? And he said, I like them. I've been to see them. So I'm more of a bit of a disco fan, and he were a bit more of a, I don't know what you call it, but he just were into like more mod stuff and things, and a bit of punk and all that, really. He were into. I mean, I did like a lot of Billy Idol and things like that, but I didn't dress that way. You know what I mean? So, but your dad actually did dress a bit modified, so he had the look and the music, really.
What am I been wearing? I don't really, but knowing me, I probably had something like Levi jeans on. Polo shirt. I don't think it was Fred Perry though, either. And even though it was cold, I used to go out with just like trouser, t-shirt, and you couldn't get in places. Then you had to wear shoes, like, so I've had shoes on, some kind of brogues or something.
A red dress with a white frilly collar, a little leopard skin thin belt. The dress had long sleeves. It was made out of a felt material, and it was gathered in at the wrists, came down to just below my knee, and I had some burgundy red leather shoes that had a little T-bar on. They were made of like leopard skin, not leopard skin, like snake skin. They've got like a bit of a pattern on them, like a snake skin looking shoe. And I had a little red handbag. And my hair was all, I think the hair was quite short at that time, and all blonde with like loads of curls in the top of it. I was with a friend from school who I'd been friends with for quite a while, from being probably 13, Trudy Cooling. And then I had another friend who I got friends with when I was just leaving school. She was called Kim Boothman.
Yeah, well, we all lads out of Bayton. Yeah, they were Kevin Davison. Yeah, John Clayton. Philip Nicholson. Mick Bullivant. Kenny Brown. What else were they? Philip Nicholson. Andrew Leonard. Andrew Lippy, who is Andrew Leonard. I don't know why they call him Lippy, but no, he didn't know what Lippy like, but.
I think he was drinking Alston Pills, because he always drunk that, because either that or he was just drinking lager. I don't know whether he started to drink Alston pills just after that, because he booked a lad's holiday, and he had got quite a lot of weight on, and he were like conscious about the fact that he were going to be away with all these lads who were right skinny, and so he'd started like making sure he didn't drink as much. So he started drinking Alston pills because the sugars brewed into alcohol, and it was supposedly not so many calories, but got a stronger effect. So he always started drinking these Alston pills, and that's why he drunk them, and he really liked them. And then after that, he never drunk anything else. But he did drop probably about 2.5 stone or something like that, because by the time he actually got on this holiday to Lorette with lads, he were really slim.
Well, always drunk them.
Drinking Babycham, and it was in like a proper little Babycham glass that was like a really thin stem, and then like it bowed out at the top, and they used to put a little sword, a plastic sword in, and put 2 cherries on this plastic sword, and they used to balance it inside the glass, and it made it look really posh, and they were proper Babycham glasses.
Well, I didn't know what she drunk. She didn't really drink a lot, your mum. She weren't a drinker. She was only 16, bearing in mind. I bought her a drink, though, a Babycham.
Well, there was 3 floors to this pub. You went upstairs to have a meal, and then there was a function room right at the top of the building. Then the middle bit was just a pub and where you could go for a meal. And then downstairs it was called the disco, and you had to queue to go downstairs into the disco part, and it was quite dark and held up by big metal poles and quite dark, and like there were a dance floor with like strobe lights on it, and DJ were in this little separate bit, and that was where all younger people went. So he were already down there, in there, and I came quite late because I'd been working, and we got down there, and he was just stood there with all his mates, and I knew one of his friends, so I went over to say, where's your friend? And he said, do you want a drink? And I said, yeah, go on then. And Trudy and Kim were like laughing, because they were like, oh, you know, they could see there was some kind of chemistry between us. And so he went and fetched me a drink, and they was just stood with all his friends. And then my friends they stood to one side, and then we like just broke away, and they were just me and him chatting. And that's how we basically met, really. But we did know each other from before, but we didn't realise we knew each other, because when we found out when we started going out with each other, that the parents used to sit at the Cumberland pub in Bayton, and we used to play together when we were, well, Dad probably would have been about 6, and I probably would have been about 3 or 4. So we actually had met, but we didn't know we had until obviously this relationship turned a bit more serious, and then brought your dad home, and obviously Nana said, we know what's his surname then, and who's his family, and she said, oh, and we used to sit with his mum and dad behind the Cumberland pub when you were a baby. And so I said, oh, God. And so then when I went round to Nana Shores, I said, oh, my mum says that she used to sit with you at the Cumberland pub. And she said, oh, yeah, I remember. And so that were you when you were a baby then. I remember that, she said. So, and then she started saying, oh, yeah, our Andrew had a powder blue coat on that night. He did look lovely. So that's how we found out that we obviously had met before. And I remember meeting him one night when I got on the bus from the Mill pub, and he was coming up the stairs, and one of the lads said, oh, don't talk to Andy. He's really upset. His girlfriend's dumped him. And he came upstairs, and he got these really rosy cheeks, and right fresh-faced and lovely glistening eyes and right shiny hair. And I can remember looking, thinking, oh, he's quite nice. And then they were all saying, oh, yeah, he's phoned his girlfriend, and they finished and what have you. And I remember thinking, oh, right. So when I went to sit, when that night that we met in the mill, I remember thinking, oh, that's that lad who's finished with his girlfriend, and he's stood there. So obviously I'd had a few drinks and I felt quite confident about going up to him and saying, "Where's your friend Kenny tonight then?"
She was stood on stairs outside waiting to come down into the mill. I didn't speak to her, I just saw her. And we'd met her eyes before, and she knew a bit about me because I'd been going out with another girl called Jane. But Trudy knew me quite well because obviously she lived along our road. She walked past, apparently to see me, like, you know what I mean? Well, whatever. You know what I mean? Well, as you went in, I was to the left-hand side and bar was straight in front of you. So, and then there was a dance floor in the corner.
No, not really. It was a long time ago. And we were drunk, obviously, because my dad had been out since, he'd been out since about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I did get out it got to be 7:30. And by the time we'd actually met, I think it were probably 10 o'clock. So we'd only really had probably about half an hour together, and he probably couldn't make a head or tail of what I was saying, and I probably couldn't understand what he was saying, really. And music was so loud in that pub. You used to have to really go up to each other really close because the music was so loud. If you really wanted to have a conversation, you had to really listen to each other. And obviously, he was that drunk. He put his arm round me, and then he fell, and he fell backwards over this table. And because he got his arm round me, he took me with him. So I went backwards as well. Obviously, then I was so embarrassed that obviously everybody were looking at us, and I'd fallen over with him. He got up and thought it were hilarious, and I was so embarrassed I just stormed out as best I could, with me obviously being a bit merry. And I went upstairs into the toilets, and then my friends followed me and were like, "What's happened? And I said, "He's fell backwards and took me over that table." And they were laughing, they thought it were hilarious. And I said, "Look, I think we should go home now." And they were all like, "Yeah, I think you're right. And then I realised that when I got outside, I couldn't walk because I was drunk and my legs wouldn't work right. So my friends had to help me home. They said, "That's because you've had them baby shams. What Andrew's bought you that, you've had too many."
I don't want to be honest, mate, so I was that drunk. Obviously, I fell backwards on the table and took your mum with me. We've been out since, been on a riot session. It was probably about 10 o'clock at night when your mum finally come in, because it was that busy. But in them days, they let them open till 12, you know what I mean? Just because it was Christmas Eve.
Well, yeah, I have. And obviously, it was frosty and it was really cold. And obviously, air hit me and I couldn't properly walk. So they had to help me all the way home. And when I got home, I realised that they'd dragged me so far that I'd wore the toes away from my shoes. I couldn't walk that much. So it was a bit of an experience, and I was so embarrassed at what had happened. I didn't want to see him because I thought he'll just be laughing at me thinking, "Oh my God, she's gone over that table." And then a couple of days later, one of the girls, I think it was Trudy, said to me, "Oh, he's been asking about you, wanting to know where you are and if you were all right." And I said, "I don't want anything to do with him. I can't believe that he did that." And that's how it, obviously when he did get to see me after that, he was like, "Are you all right? I'm sorry about what happened." And obviously it was a good excuse to get back chatting again.
She didn't come out 3 days because she was ill. Next time I saw her, it was New Year's Eve. Her taking anywhere, though, because I got a reputation in the village. I've been a bit of a fucker, like, for fighting and whatever. So she's just weighing up situation, basically. But she was getting to tell things about me. But you know what women are like, they're fascinated to be a rogue, aren't they? You know what I mean? So I would have fucked her. You got to be careful with him because he's a nightmare, he's always fighting, which I weren't, but it's the persona that a village gives you, isn't it? I did announce that, didn't I? Because come February, I was facing in car park. That's when I got a baseball bat and really. It discouraged it, did I suppose?
yeah, I would never have had the confidence to go over to speak to them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dared. He would have been too shy to speak to me, but he'd obviously got his brave face on because he'd been drinking, and I got my brave face on because I'd had a drink as well. No, we're never that bothered about it because Grandad Wild had always been a bit of a drinker, and Nana Wild never really liked it. So I always thought, well, my mum seems to think that this drinking is really not a clever thing to do. So I used to have a few drinks for a bit of Dutch courage, but when I realised how it made me feel sick and how it made me feel out of control, I didn't like it, and I never liked the feeling of being out of control. And I've always thought like that now, and I can remember my mum saying to me, look, well, that was one of the things when I'd had a drink that night, she said, listen, if you get drunk and, you get with a lad and he starts wanting to go any further, you'll always, if you're not in a fit state to get away and things, it can start turning nasty, that. And she said to me, don't get yourself in that situation. So I can remember me always thinking when I had a drink and feeling like I was a bit out of control, I was thinking, oh God, I don't want that to happen to me. So I was always like a bit scared of drink and a bit wary. And then obviously when it made me feel so ill the next day, I thought, no way do I want that. And so I've never really got drunk because I've never really got that merry, because I always think, I just don't like that feeling next day. But Dad used to drink, you see, and when he had a drink, he used to change his personality, and he used to get quite cocky. And so when we went out, it did cause a lot of problems between a relationship, because what he used to do is he used to drink for a bit of courage, because obviously he was shy, but he didn't want to admit that he was shy. But it used to turn him a bit cocky, and I used to think, oh, I hate him. He's so cocky. When we first go out, I really like him, and then so far through the night, he starts turning cocky, and I thought, I don't. So we used to fall in, fall out, and we were like that constantly, because drink really, we're changing his personality, and it weren't the true person really.
Well, all my mates were mine, and most of the lads that we were out at pit, weren't they? So they were big drinkers, weren't they? They were a drinking culture.